Welcome or welcome back to the Lawkward Chronicles. My name is Larissa and today we have our April wrap up. So you know how I said at the beginning of April that I was trying to slow my roll, not read as many books? Well, I'm a liar because this month, in the month of April, I read 9 books. Yeah, I said that was absurd the last time I did that. It is absurd. I did not mean to do that. It just happened, and here we are. Starting off with the series, might as well, since they were the first books that I read in April, which was When He Was Wicked, Francesca's story of the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. And this is like a Regency romance, sort of like Gossip Girl-esque, but the beginning books were more like that. She's not talked about as much as her other siblings in the Bridgerton series. She's often off doing her own thing, not mentioned as much. She's more of the quiet one. I really do like Francesca in the sense of she's got quick wit, she's funny, but to describe her story in a quote by her is, "I don't know." The amount of times she says "I don't know" is annoying. Every time I read it, I'm like, how do you not know? Ugh, it really bothered me. But this is a friends to lovers. She is widowed. People want to marry her off because she's a young widow, so she can technically still be in society. But then some stuff happens and it's exciting. And there's a lot bigger topics on this too. I still like the first three the best. The next book that I read was Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is whatever one in the series it is. It is the fourth in the Throne of Glass series. And this is where the story starts to pick up. Things become more upfront as to what is actually happening, and they're starting to plunge forward. The plot is thickening. People are coming into this, and I am excited to continue on with the series. It's a fantasy series. I would say there's romance in it, but it's definitely more fantasy. And with just a badass protagonist, Selena Sardathian, and all of her shenanigans. The next up I read, and I did a whole reading vlog on this, so if you want to check that out, it is Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. I really loved this book. I thought it was so fun, so cute. The child in this, beautiful. This is how a child should be written with that age, because I feel like a lot of authors try to portray, this girl is 5 years old, Maddie. It's a single parent trope, famous, non-famous person trope, second chance romance. Maddie in here is exactly how, like, even the way that she speaks and thinks is definitely very much giving 5 years old. Go into this expecting just a nice, warm, comfort read, like nothing too explosive or crazy happens. There are heavier topics that are talked about in here, but it's just very comforting. I was constantly terrified for the other shoe to drop because some authors just like want a shock value, and thankfully this one did not do any of that. Love this, love the story. It's also got like superhero. Next up, I reread Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I went and annotated the crap out of it because that has been what I've been loving doing, is going back and rereading my favorite reads and annotating the crap out of them because they will be on my shelves forever. But went and tabbed, highlighted, wrote in the margins, and just had a good time rereading this. When I originally read it the first time, which was when it came out, or maybe a year after it came out, when it was having its big spur, I rated this a 4, and I was incorrect. I loved it. I think it is a 5-star if we want to round up. 4.75 I think is, because there is like a few things that I'm like, oh, why? But I love the banter. I think Emily Henry is a very talented author, and she's an auto-buy author, and all of her books have been my favorite. And Happy Place, I'm so excited to get into, which will be a reading vlog after this one, so look forward to that. And I am just obsessed with this book and all the things of it. And then next, Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover is the story of Kenna, who served 5 years in prison and she is trying to be reunited with her 4-year-old daughter after the tragic accident that she was incarcerated for in the first place. So it's a little bit more of a readjustment period too, and as well as trying to have a relationship with her daughter and be in her daughter's life. She has to figure out how to get people to forgive her or even just allow her the permission to have this relationship with her daughter. And it is very sad. It is a romance because there is a man in here named Ledger, and he is the bridge that can help her to get to her daughter. Pretty much was tearing up through probably mostly 60% of this book, the first 60%, because it just made me so sad of all the grief that was talked about in here, and just the whole situation from all sides was just heartbreaking. Obviously everybody wants to do what's best for the daughter, but nobody knows really what that is. Definitely more of a heartwarming book for Colleen Hoover. There wasn't an aggressive huge shock factor. A really, really good book. Very, very sad, but very, very good. The next book that I read it on my Kindle, and that is The Most Likely Club by Alyssa Friedland. And this was a book of the month pick a while ago, or it was an add-on or something. And I really enjoyed it. I obviously didn't get the book of the month. I figured I would just rent it from my library, which I did. And I highly enjoyed this. It was cute. It wasn't anything spectacular. It's following 4 friends who are now in their 40s, mid-40s, and it starts off with them in high school, graduating. The yearbooks are coming out, and the superlatives are huge at this high school. The most likely to succeed, the most likely to blah blah blah. And so these 4 friends are really nervous that they're not either going to get one or they're going to get a bad one. And they each get one that they think is very possible. And then life happens, and now they're coming back for their 25th reunion or something. And again, they're all in their mid-40s, and one of the friends is unable to attend. The other 3, they've all remained close, but one of the 3 was not able to attend, and the other 3 are just starstruck by her. The other 3 have kind of fallen short of their superlatives, as they would say. So they make a pact and a promise to take charge and better their lives and go after their superlatives and become the women that they know they can be. So it's about that journey. It's also very much about female friendships and the importance of it, and the importance of communication, and knowing that life is not perfect, and even though people construct all of this stuff, it may not necessarily be true, and that's a really big piece of it. It was a good little story. There are some trigger warnings, such as sexual assault and an eating disorder. Just looking at the trigger warnings if you're sensitive to any of that, okay? Next up, let's do Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. And I did a whole reading vlog on this, as well as the book club episode was about this, so you can get my thoughts more over there. This wasn't what I was expecting, as I've stated before. It's definitely more of a serious book, not so much of a romantic comedy. There's romantic aspects, but it definitely is more of the pandemic time frame. So just be aware of that, because that is a big part of it. So if you don't want to go into it knowing that, that's like dealing with that all over again, like lockdown and stuff, probably don't go into this one. But this is about Sally, who is a writer on a show, The Night Owls, which is similar to SNL, and she has noticed the phenomenon of really attractive females dating and getting engaged or married to like funny comedy but not extremely attractive males. And she notes that this has not been the case with the reverse, so really attractive males dating moderately attractive females. And the guest host of that week disagrees with that, and he is a country star, I believe, and Noah Brewster is his name, and he is very much against Sally and her Danny Horst rule. And they strike up some banter and a friendship, and she just thinks that he's super attractive and super fun, and she is very insecure about him feeling that way towards her. So it goes kind of through their journey, and they're in their mid-30s. Yeah, it is not the light kind of fluffy read that I was expecting it to be, but it is good. And then I also read, let's do some nonfiction. So I also finished, finally, The Financial Feminist by Tori Dunlap, and I love the Financial Feminist podcast. I listen to it all the time. I think it's fantastic, and Tori is great. I love that she is trying to overcome the patriarchy's bullshit to master money and build wealth in a life that you love. I thought this was a great intro to finance. It is supposed to be accessible to anybody, and I think she does a great job explaining a lot of stuff. It is obviously more female focused, and some of the barriers that we come across as females, and trying to overcome those and work towards those, as well as trying to manage and navigate through the patriarchy that keeps setting us back, especially in our financial lives. So it talks a lot about budget and investing and all of that good stuff, and negotiating. And I enjoyed it. There are some journaling prompts in here too. It's good to like get that emotional concept of your money and why we do things the way that we do. Whereas like scarcity mindset, especially in finances, has been really forthcoming and prevalent in today's financial stuff, because especially us females, most of the time there tends to be more of a scarcity mindset. And the quote that I really love from here that she just lives by, which I love so much, is, "When you have all you need, build a longer table, not a higher fence." The last book that I read is, I listened to it through Libby. It was an audiobook, and I just checked it out from my library, and that was Love, Pamela, and this is Pamela Anderson's memoir. And she lives a very interesting life. She's very like woo-woo spiritual. I didn't realize how much so. I watched, what was it, Pam and Tommy on Hulu, and that was fascinating. It was really great to hear from her side, and it kind of goes in sequence of who she was in love with at that point in life. I mean, there is talk of domestic abuse, as well as sexual assault and all of that stuff. So she growing up and everything, and her story is very fascinating, and especially all of the opportunities that came her way in such a unique way that you do not see that often. So seeing it from her side, or hearing it from her side, she narrates it, it was really good. It was really eye-opening, very different than what I originally thought of her, which I didn't really think too much. But also she talks about a little bit briefly about her time at Playboy and that experience and what she's kind of up to now. And also like a really big theme in that book for her was her activism, and she is vegan, and she works a lot with PETA and has her own foundation, and she is very heavily into those foundations and trying to get better animal rights and all of that. And she just seems like a really cool, helpful person. And I love that one of her comments, I forget what the exact quote was, but somebody was like, if you want people to start taking you seriously, probably dress in a less sexier way and stop posting the things that you do with your body. And she's like, no, I'm a woman. Like, she's like, I feel beautiful and powerful when I feel sexy, and people should be listening to my words as well. So I really like that. That was great. Oh my gosh. Why don't I ever stack them nicely? Here's all the books that I read, plus like the audiobook. So that was a lot. I really did not think I was going to read that much. So that was a surprise to me and to everyone, and we'll see what happens next month. I'm intrigued of myself, because apparently I can't stop. With that being said, thank you so much for being here. Respect others, respect yourself, and do something amazing with your day. Thanks. Bye.